Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of A Side of Nonsense. I am your host this time around, Zach Smith. Today I will be breaking down all of the Disney's Investor Day announcements. There's a lot to get through, and if I were to save this all for the news docket on the podcast, it would be an hour and a half long podcast with nothing but news. So, here we are. With that in mind, there's a lot to get to, so let's get to it. Over the next few years, Disney plans to release 10 Star Wars shows on Disney+, 10 Marvel series on Disney+, and as well as an assortment of 15 live-action Disney animation and Pixar series on the service. That is a lot of content, and that's not even all the content. That's just the Disney Plus stuff. Starting off specifically with Disney Plus series in development at the moment. First up, we have the Beauty and the Beast prequel, starring Luke Evans and Josh Gad, both reprising their roles as Gaston and LeFou from the Beauty and the Beast live-action movie. This has been in the works for a little while, pretty much since like the second month after the movie came out. They were talking about this thing. So they are finally committing to it. It's happening. I guess if you want more of that, you have it to look forward to. No firm release date yet, just that it is in development. Next up, we have a reboot of Swiss Family Robinson, which I guess if you were clamoring for that, there you go. More exciting, however, is that there is a Percy Jackson and the Olympians Disney Plus series in development. This new series will most likely be more in line with the source material. No word yet on whether the author Rick Riordan. Do you know how to say his name? Rick Riordan? Riordan? Rick Riordan. If you are not part of the unlucky batch that had to suffer through the 2010 original movie and its 2013 sequel, much like the author of the series, Rick Riordan, who basically pretends that those movies don't exist at this point, then you can just have this to look forward to, so it does not sully your interpretation of the franchise. Following that, we have a sequel series for the Mighty Ducks titled Mighty Ducks Game Changers, starring Emilio Estevez reprising his role from the original movies, as well as Lauren Graham, who you might know from Parenthood or Gilmore Girls. It's unclear if it's picking up immediately after 1996's D3. Highly unlikely, I would imagine. I would think there'd be some sort of time skip in there, but who's to say? Next up on the not sure why portion of the announcements, we have a Turner and Hooch reboot starring Josh Peck. Sure, we'll just put that in there with Swiss Family Robinson as a kind of a question mark there. After that, we have the new show Big Shot, starring John Stamos, Yvette Nicole Brown, and Jessalyn Gilsig. The story seems to be about John Stamos, an NCAA coach, coaching a high school girls basketball team. And rounding out the Disney Plus specific announcements, we have an adaptation of The Mysterious Benedict Society, starring Christian Shaw and Tony Ham. Over to my right here, I have the synopsis of the show, which I will now read to you, dear viewer, because I have no idea what this show is, and I imagine most of you don't either. The series deals with the adventures of 4 young children who are each gifted in different areas, bound by one common factor. They are either orphans or unwanted by their parents. Cheerful. The children become involved with the strange Nicholas Benedict and his guild of assistants who are trying to stop Mr. Benedict's twin, the Drop the Curtain. Le Drop the Curtain.
Le Drop the Curtain. Le Drop the Curtain.
And that wraps up the specific Disney Plus announcements. So moving on from there, we then got a few Hulu / mostly FX announcements. So let's dive into those. First up, we just have more confirmation that FX is moving forward with their anthology-type series from Ryan Murphy titled American Horror Stories. Thought real long about that title, huh? If you like American Horror Story, I imagine this is just much of the same. It's smaller bit stories. Obviously, it's an anthology series. Man. Then we had confirmation that the FX adaptation of Y: The Last Man was still in development. Not much beyond that, just, hey guys, this is still happening. No word yet on when that will come to fruition. And then last on the Hulu side, we have just another confirmation that Handmaid's Tale will be continuing into a 5th season. So if you are still enjoying that show for whatever reason, you have a 5th season to look forward to. And then on the FX side, we have 2 huge announcements. The first being that Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been renewed for 4 additional seasons. It's currently at the end of its 14th, so this will put it, by the time it ends these 4 seasons, it will be at season 18. A couple months back, there was a lot of hubbub about the fact that with just one more season past its last, it would take the throne for the longest running live action comedy show in TV history. The one that it beat out was a very well-known show, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. Ozzie and Harriet ran from 1952 to 1966 with 14 seasons, so by the time Sunny finishes up its 18th season, it will have beaten that handedly. However, it's worth noting, and I don't know why this is important. It's not. I just find it interesting. It's worth noting that Ozzie and Harriet will still be, episode-wise, much longer than Always Sunny. Ozzie and Harriet finished its run with 435 episodes. At this moment, with the 14th season having ended in November 2019, I believe, it is at 154. So even by the metric of, well, what's it going to be at the end of season 18, the Sunny usually averages around 10 episodes or so per season. So even with that, it would still be hovering around the 200 mark, probably a little less actually. So that's still half of the episode count of Ozzie and Harriet. So that can still keep that throne. And then last up, we have the huge one, the big one. Apparently an Alien series from director Noah Hawley, who is best known for Fargo and Legion, is in development. Hawley just recently kind of had his Star Trek show, or Star Trek movie rather, fall through. That was in the works for a little bit, but with everybody's slates moving around because of the pandemic, this basically, I guess, is just where his attention was able to be pushed, because he didn't really have that Star Trek project anymore. This is awesome. Very excited. I know Nick will be excited about this since he's the Noah Hawley stan of the podcast. I'm excited for him, and I'm excited through him as well. So, yeah, should be good. And then from there, we got more of a breakdown into a studio structure. So that was just sort of the overall Disney conglomerate encompassing sort of thing. Whereas from this point forward, most of their news or their announcements were broken down per studio. So first up, we have Lucasfilm. They started out by announcing that Hayden Christensen will actually be reprising his role as Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Now, I don't know what that really means, because by the time, the end of Revenge of the Sith came around, there wasn't a whole lot of Hayden there. I don't really equate the two together. Obviously he's Darth Vader, but he's not Darth Vader. James Earl Jones is Darth Vader. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, good for him. He's been kind of floundering a little bit since Jumper, I believe, which was 2008, if I remember correctly. So big ups from Pizza Pie. What was that pizza movie he was in? I'm going to put it up there. Is that pizza movie? That was terrible, supposedly. From there, we move on to some Mandalorian spin-offs. First up, we have the Rangers of the New Republic show, likely starring Gina Carano, reprising her role as Cara Dune. And then the other spin-off is Ahsoka. Just Ahsoka. There's no, again, no subtitle. Just Ahsoka. You'll see this come up a few times. We've already seen it with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know what's going on with the whole naming convention here, where it's just like, name. That's it. Nothing else. The Mandalorian makes sense, right? Because that's kind of nebulous, and it's not Din Djarin or anything like that. It's just the Mandalorian. But now we're running into character. This character is the show. Let's use their name in the show, so you know who's in the show. Yes, Rosario Dawson will be reprising her role as Ahsoka Tano from her stint in The Mandalorian in this new self-titled show. Supposedly, by the time all these finish, they will have converged into sort of a super event. I believe, yes, the quote is climactic story event, so think, CW, Arrowverse crossover event, or the thing that they've been going on and on about with the Marvel shows, where they will converge, then ebb, converge, ebb, that sort of thing. When you think about it, this makes sense since Kevin Feige is heading the Star Wars division now, so the idea that you would structure that much like you have done with your Marvel universe, it just stands to reason. After that, we have Andor. See, there's that naming convention again. Starring Diego Luna, is the Cassian Andor prequel series for Rogue One. Takes place 5 years before Rogue One. At the moment, they are aiming for a 2022 release. Now, obviously, with the way things are right now, it's very nebulous, whether or not they're going to stick to these release dates, and things are going to get pushed around due to scheduling conflicts or production dates, that kind of thing. But as of right now, 2022 is what they're aiming for. Then we got a trailer for The Bad Batch, the spin-off series for the Clone Wars animated show. If you finish Clone Wars, then you know who the Bad Batch are, what their deal is, kind of the tone that they'll be bringing. Not a whole lot to glean from the trailer, other than it looks like it might be kind of a half and half sort of story, with part of the story taking place before Order 66 is enacted and after Order 66 is enacted. You get a shot of Palpatine in his Emperor attire. His eyes are all yellowy and piss yellow. Evil piss yellow. Next up, we have Star Wars Visions, which is a collection of animated short films from a team of Japanese anime creators. It's going to be about 10 episodes, with each episode being a different team and a different subject matter. I guess if it's a positive connection, I like it. I know Nick doesn't, but it reminds me, at least when hearing about it, of course, reminds me of the Animatrix. Whether or not that's a good thing, I guess, depends on who you are. But it's interesting, it's different. Very much looking forward to this. Continuing on, they announced a Lando Calrissian show titled only Lando. There we go again. No word yet on whether or not this is a Donald Glover Lando or a Billy D. Williams Lando. Just the title and the logo is all we got. No release date or anything. So you get more Lando. A while back, we had a story about Leslie Headland getting the job to showrun a new Star Wars show. It was going to be female-centric. Now we have a title for that show, as well as an era in which it's taking place. The title being The Acolyte, and the era being the High Republic era. For those who don't know, High Republic era is about 200 years before the Skywalker saga. So just a bunch of Jedi running around and doing shit. Wrapping up the show portion of the Star Wars docket is a droid story. It's an animated show following C-3PO and R2-D2 as they guide an as-of-yet unnamed protagonist through his journey. I don't know what that journey is. I don't know who that protag is. No release date again. Just it's there. It's gonna happen. Logo. R2-D2 and C-3PO are always good. I like it. Taika Waititi is confirmed to still be developing his Star Wars film. Still no details on what that is and who else is involved in it. It sounds like it's still very much in early development, but good to know it's still on the docket. And rounding out Star Wars as a whole is probably the biggest news from Lucasfilm, and that's that Patty Jenkins will be directing the next feature film in the Star Wars franchise, titled Rogue Squadron. This is, at the moment, aiming for a December 2023 release. Not much else is known about the project other than the release date and the name. It will not be following the previously established story from the novels, nor will it be following the video games. So it's going to just be its own original story. Biggest thing to note with this announcement, however, is that Patty Jenkins will be the first female director for the Star Wars film franchise. Previously, we saw Deborah Chow and Bryce Dallas Howard do some episodes on The Mandalorian, but for the film series, Patty Jenkins will be the first female director. Of a curious note, it is interesting that we didn't hear anything about the previously planned Rian Johnson trilogy, nor did we hear anything about the also previously discussed take on the Old Republic era of Star Wars, / Knights of the Old Republic adaptation. It was usually pretty vague on whether or not that Old Republic movie was going to be a straight adaptation or just taking place in the era. But regardless, we heard absolutely nothing about either of those projects. The lack of any information about the Johnson trilogy is especially interesting. I'm not sure if that speaks to any future plans or if that's just so in the weeds at the moment and it's still in a deep development process that there's not really anything to announce. But it's been going on for quite a while, longer than it sounds like this new Patty Jenkins movie has been in the works for. Moving on from Star Wars to just Lucasfilm in general, we had an announcement that Indiana Jones 5 has been tentatively set for July 2022. We also got confirmation that James Mangold will be indeed directing. James Mangold, of course, director on Ford v Ferrari as well as Logan. One of those is better than the other. The film is set to see the return of Harrison Ford as the eponymous Indiana Jones, as well as a wrap-up on the character story as a whole. I feel like I've heard that somewhere before, but maybe they actually mean it this time. Also up for 2022 is a sequel series of the 1988 Willow, set for Disney+. Not much else is known about the sequel series other than the fact that Warwick Davis will be returning and reprising his role from the film. But I know that there are a bunch of huge fans of the original movie, and that they will be looking forward to this, so ups to that. And rounding out the Lucasfilm docket is an adaptation of the Tomi Adeyemi novel, Children of Blood and Bone. From Lucasfilm, we go to Walt Disney Studios. First up, we have just another confirmation that Hocus Pocus 2 is in development for Disney+. At this point, I believe everyone from the original movie is on board to reprise their roles, so fans of the original can look forward to that. We're also seeing a reboot of Three Men and a Baby, starring Zac Efron. No word yet on whether or not he's playing one of the men or the baby. That's set for 2022. And then we also have a reboot for Cheaper by the Dozen, starring Gabrielle Union, set for as well 2022. And then out of the ether clambered something that made my heart soar. Did not expect it, and yet here we are, living in this timeline where we are being graced with Sister Act 3, Whoopi Goldberg coming back, reprising her role from the original two movies. No word yet on a subtitle. Hard to imagine that they could ever be Back in the Habit, but we'll see. Sister Act 3, none your business. Sister Act 3, Kicking the Habit. Oh, that sounds bad. That sounds like a drug thing. Sister Act 3, Back in the Habit 2. Moving on from the Sister Act frivolity, we have a live-action animation hybrid film of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, set to star John Mulaney and Andy Samberg. I like all those things generally. Not sure if I like all those things together, but I'm gay. It's been a minute since the Rescue Rangers thing. Just makes me think of DuckTales. I'm so sad about it. And then from there, we have some much less surprising news. There's more info on the Pinocchio and Peter Pan and Wendy live-action movies. As of right now, pretty much the only thing we know about Pinocchio is that it will be starring Tom Hanks as Geppetto, and it's directed by Robert Zemeckis. Peter Pan and Wendy, on the other hand, will be starring Jude Law as Captain Hook and Yara Shahidi as Tinkerbell. The sequel to Enchanted, I didn't know if this was greenlit before, but it might have been. The sequel to Enchanted, titled Disenchanted, is coming. Amy Adams is returning as Giselle, so there you go. And then the big news here is that Raya and the Last Dragon, starring Kelly Marie Tran, has been officially set for a simultaneous release across Disney Plus and theaters, with the Disney Plus release being part of the Premier Access package. Pay $29.99 on top of your monthly sub to be able to watch the movie. If you don't remember what the Mulan kind of rollout was like, you do pay that $29.99 and then you get unlimited access as long as you keep paying your sub for the movie, with the full access to anyone who didn't pay coming down the line. Mulan was just made available to everyone who didn't have that premiere access, I think 2 weeks ago or so. Rounding out the film portion of the Disney animation side, we have an announcement about the next film. I believe it's the 60th film in the company's kind of history. The film is called Encanto, songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and it's slated for November of 2021. There's not much to go along with this announcement, just a short byline. Encanto takes you to Colombia, where a magical family lives in a magical home. So, glean from that what you will. Finishing out Disney altogether, we have an announcement about the first ever Walt Disney Animation Studios produced animated series, all coming to Disney Plus. First up, we have Baymax with an exclamation mark. Zootopia Plus, which is a terrible name, it doesn't tell you anything. What's the plus for? Why is it an additive? Why is it not Zootopia Minus? I mean, that doesn't sound like a great show to watch, but what does the plus mean? You're on Disney Plus. There's too many pluses. Stop with all the pluses. It's not a fucking math problem. And then you also have Tiana. All three of these shows are set to release in 2022, with a final show called Moana the Series to be released in 2023. They made a point to specify that Tiana and Moana the Series were long-form shows, meaning that there is a through line and plot. No word yet on whether or not both of those will be 3D animated like Moana, or if Tiana will still retain the 2D hand-drawn art style from the film. And following that up, Walt Disney Animation Studios will be partnering with Kugali, a Pan-African comic book entertainment company, to produce Iwaju. The long-form series, steeped in science fiction, is set in Lagos, Nigeria, and it will explore deep themes of class, innocence, and challenging the status quo. Quote, the show will combine Disney's magic and animation expertise with Kugali's fire and storytelling authenticity. Iwaju represents a personal childhood dream of mine to tell my story and that of my people, and that is from the director Zeke Nelson. Pixar's announcements were a little truncated compared to everything else, but they're no less large. First up, we have the studio's first ever long-form animated series called Win or Lose. It's set for release in February 2023 on Disney Plus, and follows a middle school softball team from week to week, leading up to their championship game, with every episode offering a different perspective for each player on the team. I'm sure it will make you cry. Possibly the biggest controversy of the event is the Chris Evans-led Lightyear. Lightyear is an origin story of Buzz Lightyear, the toy, and the controversy being that, of course, Tim Allen will not be reprising the role of Buzz Lightyear in this story. Supposedly, it sounds like the plot is kind of a tongue-in-cheek sort of like, here's the action hero movie that inspired the toy, and Chris Evans plays the action hero in this Lightyear movie. But I imagine Tim Allen's probably going to pop up in there somewhere, so if you're angry about this for some reason, because you have nothing else going on in your life to be worried about, and I envy you, Maybe, just kind of wait and see what happens there. Luca officially was set for a June 2021 date. Still not a whole lot known about that. It sounds kind of very picturesque and countryside, almost kind of that Miyazaki sort of style of like wandering through the countryside and just kind of nothing happening. And then last for Pixar is an announcement of their next project, Turning Red. Turning Red follows the story of May, a teenager who's struggling with the general awkwardness of being a teenager, only with the added problem that whenever she gets too excited, she turns into a giant red panda. There will be plenty of hijinks, I'm sure. Turning Red is set for March 11th, 2021. And then all that leads us to the last kit and caboodle, Marvel. So let's dive into that. 3 new Disney Plus series were officially announced, the first being a Secret Invasion show starring Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn, both reprising their roles as Nick Fury and Talos, respectively. Talos is a Pokemon. Talos? I only saw Captain Marvel once. It's Talos. And we also have an Ironheart series starring Dominique Thorne playing Riri Williams, as well as Armor Wars starring Don Cheadle reprising his role as War Machine. All 3 of those are most likely going to be based off their comic runs, so I wouldn't imagine a whole lot would change. But we have seen some trickery with the MCU in general, so who's to say? WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki all got new trailers, with Loki officially being set for May 2021. And then there was also a trailer for the new What If series. What If, of course, follows the structure of the comics by the same name, in which they take elements that you're familiar with in the Marvel Universe and slightly twist them. So Peggy Carter is actually Captain America, that sort of thing. It looks like in the trailer there's also going to be some Marvel Zombies, maybe Doctor Strange as Mephisto, that kind of thing. What If is currently scheduled for a summer 2021 release. After many conflicting reports as to whether or not this was true, Tatiana Maslany was officially confirmed to be playing Jennifer Walters in She-Hulk. And we also got the big news that Mark Ruffalo will be joining the show as well, obviously playing Bruce Banner. And then the big one, Tim Roth, out of nowhere, is reprising his role as the Abomination from The Incredible Hulk. I guess that will actually mean more than nothing now in the MCU. James Gunn will be both writing and directing a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, as well as a mini-series called I Am Groot. I Am Groot sounds like it's going to be more of a kids show. Think maybe there's that show on Disney Plus like Pixar and Small Life or Forky Ask Questions or something like that. That kind of thing is what it really sounds like. The holiday special will be filmed alongside Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and released in 2022. Ant-Man 3 has been officially given the title Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Jonathan Majors has also been confirmed to officially be playing King the Conqueror, so some time travel shenanigans are going to be taking place there. On the Thor front, Christian Bale has been confirmed to be playing the villain in Thor: Love and Thunder, though not who you would actually expect. I know a lot of people were thinking he was going to be playing Beta Ray Bill, but in fact he will be playing Gore the God Butcher. 3 guesses on what his deal is. Miss Marvel, played by Iman Vellani, and Monica Rambeau, played by Teyonah Parris, are said to be joining Captain Marvel 2, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has been officially confirmed to be connected to WandaVision and Spider-Man 3. I think they mean the next Tom Holland Spider-Man, but everyone keeps referring to it as Spider-Man 3, which is so fucking maddening to me, and I can't handle it. Stop calling it that. Just come out with the damn name so we can call it There's No Place Like Home or Home for the Holidays or whatever the subtitle is going to be. Just let us know so I can stop calling it Spider-Man 3. Because on the flip side of that, Sam Raimi is attached to Multiverse of Madness, so then I'm thinking, is this actually connected to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3, and how fucking crazy would that be? And I just tell me which one it is already. And then last for Marvel, we have been officially told that a Fantastic Four movie is in the works. And as we just mentioned, the Spider-Man Home slash films with Tom Holland, whatever you want to call them, the Home trilogy. John Watts, the director of those, will be directing the Fantastic Four movie. Literally, that's all we know. There is no release date for the future. Just, it's happening. Oh, and then I forgot to mention, they did officially confirm in a weird roundabout way that they will not be recasting T'Challa, but they didn't say we won't be recasting Black Panther. So it sounds like we still kind of know what we already know, but we don't know what we already knew. I don't know. And that wraps it up. I didn't touch some of the smaller things like ESPN or Nat Geo. I know they're doing a bunch of different documentaries. I think Chris Hemsworth is attached to one of those documentary shows. And then there's also Star, their international streaming that they're going to be rolling out here in the near future. Kind of a all-encompassing streaming service that will tie into Hulu and Disney+. There was also a Night at the Museum new movie or something like that. So sorry if that's your deal and you were waiting for me to mention that, which I guess I just did, but it was offhandedly, so it was really sincere. But this has been a Side of Nonsense. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know what you're excited for. If there's anything on the list that you're really dying to see and you can't wait. Again, these are all over the next 3 years. It's a lot of content. Basically just going to be inundated with stuff from second to second with no breaks in between. So whether or not that excites you or scares you, let me know. And then, yeah, thanks for joining. Sister Act 3, Act Your Age. Sister Act 3, none of the above. Sister Act 3, Class Act. Sister Act 3, and then there were nuns. Sister Act 3, The Bad Batch.